The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. Between science and ignorance, there is filler.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Filler, original broadcast date, November 13th, 2016. My guest tonight is Cami Andersen. She is the owner of the infamous Asylum 49. Paranormal Filler is sponsored by Ken Boggle's House of Cards, tarotbyken.com. A little side note, I got to go to the Mystical Paranormal Fair today in Lexington, Kentucky. I finally made it. God, it seems like it's been months and months since I've got to go to the event. But a little news on it. It's moving. They're having to move to a new location, so there will not be one in December if that's something that you're into. So you're going to have to wait till January. They said there's no way they're going to be able to find a place to move it to by December. So that's on hold. But I got to see my good friend Ken Boggle today, and I had time for a tarot reading by Mr. Ken Boggle. They were asking me in the chat room whether it was a good reading, and it was a good reading. He was very, very accurate. But the interesting thing was, he listens to me whine and bitch about things in my life all the time, and I think he thinks that, well, everybody whines and bitches, and, that's just what people do. And he's going through my cards going, wow, this stuff is real, isn't it? So he found out that, yes, I whine and bitch and moan, but I have damn good reason to do it. And, of course, don't forget, go ahead and give you a plug. Don't forget, Paranormal Filler is every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Looks like we're scheduled right up through Christmas Day. So we've got shows every week. Some really great guests coming up. And, of course, tonight's guest, really excited. Worked on a book with Richard Eastep. I didn't have the page pulled up, but yes. Richard Eastep. The name of the book is The Haunting of Asylum 49, Chilling Tales of Aggressive Spirits, Phantom Doctors, and the Secret of Room 66. And Cami, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm not even sure when I got I've had a really busy fall. I'm not even sure when the book came out, but the publisher's real good about sending me these little notes about when they had new books coming out, and here's who wrote it and everything. And and I finally got around to answering it, and so I how long has the book been out?
It came out the end of August.
Okay, well, I'm not too late on it. You probably would have liked to have the Halloween punch, but we're
going to be here all year, so
okay. Well, let's get on into it now. If I remember correctly, I'm digging back into what little paranormal television that I actually get to watch. This place was featured on Ghost Adventures, correct?
It was.
Okay, there. See, I'm not totally unfamiliar with the location. I know what. Well, at least, of course, they feigned surprise, but in reality, a lot of people are surprised. Now, this place, and I've got the history here, and we'll be going over it. But it is still part of the building is still used for a convalescent home, for a retirement home. Correct?
Correct. And it has been operating beside us since we've opened 11 years ago. We have a really good relationship with them, and we just let them do their thing, and they let us do our thing. But they will be moving out. We bought the whole building, and so there will no longer be a home there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the big exciting part of that is that side that they are on has never been investigated before.
And just, okay, and presumably it's in a little better shape than the photos I've seen of the other side, correct?
Correct. It has been up and running, obviously, so it has to be a lot nicer than what we have on our side, which is generally used for a haunted house attraction. So it being run down is part of our doing.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll grant you that, but I guarantee y'all don't slap a new coat of paint on that bitch every year.
We swipe a new coat of blood every year.
Okay, let's get into that first. Now, that's one thing that... and it doesn't, because I know lots of haunted locations that, to pay the light bills, also do haunted attractions. So I'm not going to belittle that. But now the haunted attraction part of it, and when I say haunted attraction, people, now we're talking about the good old fashioned haunted house, and incidentally, billed as a full contact haunted attraction, right, which I found interesting. I can take it that means that the actors can touch people.
Yes, they can touch you. Actually, a lot of times the doctors, because it's a hospital, we have doctors with some of our characters, they'll carry you off, take you in a room, work on you with the crazies with actual tools, things like that.
Gosh,
it's not for the faint of heart.
It also sounds like it sounds like you should frisk people before they go in. But that being beside the point. Let's get into the history of the building. Now, is that something that goes on year round, or how's the scheduling on that aspect?
The haunted house attraction actually is up from about mid-September to obviously through the Halloween season. We generally start building around August, so we only run the ghost tour side of it from January to August.
Okay. Some of the stuff on the internet I've read, it didn't really make that clear. So it's a haunted house during haunted house season. That's right. Cool. That's pretty typical. But now, do you leave most of that crap laying around the rest of the time?
Actually, we tear down every year and rebuild new for this next season. So usually when you do ghost tours, a large percentage, probably I would say around 95% of it, is built and set up as a hospital, and was when they first walked out of the door.
Okay. Well, the pictures on the internet do not reflect that.
Right.
I'm coming at it from this angle, and I keep seeing these, monsters and mannequins and various scary things that I just know look, are not something you want to walk up with the lights off. I'll put it that way.
Right.
Now, and she's already had to correct me on this, but it is the old Tooele Hospital. Now, one thing that shocked me about the history of the place. Now, okay, let me ask it this way: has this building been added onto, or is this pretty much the original building and facade?
It has been added onto. It's almost all of it the original. Our section of it is. So the whole hospital is 216,000 square feet. We currently use 38,000 square feet. So when our addition is the original. And as the years went on and the needs grew in the community for a larger hospital, they did add some stuff on, but that was fairly early on in the game.
Okay, the reason I asked that is the history thing that I found on it. The building was first built by a man named Samuel F. Lee, and he built the structure to give his family and himself a place to live. Nothing about this place looks like a place to live.
No, actually, that is a piece of history that doesn't correlate with our hospital.
Oh.
Right. So the reason that people have said that is because they felt that there was somebody named Samuel Lee as a spirit at the hospital.
Oh.
And so they tried to reason as to why that was. This wasn't us that was...
So this is total bullshit.
Right. So people tried to reason that out as why he may have been there. So whether he was there or was not there, I don't know 100% for sure because I didn't see him.
Well, that pisses me off, though.
Psychics and mediums that did.
That pisses me off because they present this as a historical, but I saw it on the internet, and you know how that goes. So,
right.
okay.
That one is a story that goes around, but that's not the true story.
Okay, now, so in other words, it was built to be a hospital. Is that what you're telling me?
Right. It was built to be a hospital from the very first day. It used to be farming land, and it was built specifically as a hospital.
Okay, we got rid of that research. I can't believe
what that was.
I cannot believe somebody posted that on the internet as actual historic research.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that only left out the part where it was a poorhouse. They said. Right. So it was built as a hospital. Is the story about it not having a morgue, is that at least correct?
That is correct. We don't have a morgue. You're very right.
They stacked them in. They stacked them in the utility closet.
It was actually in 2 patient rooms, and they were kind of patient rooms that were off the beaten path. So it was easy to put the bodies aside, so the mortuary could come and pick them up and take them to their final destination. Or if there weren't a lot of bodies in there, they could actually have family mourn and say goodbye if they needed a patient room.
Now, what year roughly? You don't have to be exact, but about when did they? I still got to wrap my head around it having 2 parts. Did they close part of it and the rest home? Was that still hospital, or kind of give me an overview of the history of the building itself as far as what it was used for?
So construction started in 1949, opened in 1953, and it was used as the community hospital. So it had the emergency room, it had the maternity ward, it had respiratory clinics, a cancer section, children's wing, it had a mental ward in it, and just kind of the roundabout, run-of-the-mill community hospital. And around 2000, it started shutting down in stages and moving to a new hospital. And the last that was operating was the maternity ward. And shortly after that, the nursing home took it over, and here we are.
Okay, so when the nursing home took it over, they just didn't need the entire building, and that's how it fell into your hands, or...
Right. So they didn't need the entire building. The part that they had, that they have now, has majority of the patient rooms and the lunchroom and things like that, the kitchens. And what we have is largely the business portion. So we have a lot of conference rooms, laundry areas, things like that wouldn't really be feasible and really cost-effective for a nursing home to have. And so when it's a really good thing for us to come in because they were having problems with people vandalizing the 38,000 square feet that they were no longer using. And we came in, cleaned it up, and made it safer for everyone.
Okay, this is real. I still can't believe that other site. So now when you all... Now I understand that Did you? Now you had an interest in the paranormal before you walked in the doors of this place, correct?
I did. However, my husband, when he opened the haunted house, so he started it about 11 years ago. We just finished up with our 11th season, and he started it just with the pure intent to have a haunted house attraction. And as he started building the sets and spending more time in there, he had some pretty scary experiences and just weird experiences that he couldn't explain, like voices and tools moving on their own and ending up on the other side of the hospital, and there was nobody there. He had people tugging on his clothes. You could hear voices, the doors opening, people walking up and down the halls. And he was the hugest skeptic out there that you can find. But he was forced to kind of rethink his belief system and called in a paranormal team. And following their investigation, that's where I came in, and I came in as a paranormal investigator. So I started out there as a paranormal investigator, whereas he started out to be just a haunted house attraction and got a little more than he bargained for.
Including a wife. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's right. Okay. That's right. Who knew? Who would have thought?
Oddly enough, that's the second time that a similar story has come up like that in the last year. How weird is that? Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break, everybody. You're listening to Paranormal Filler. My guest is Cami Andersen of Asylum 49. Hello, friends. Are you exhausted with life? Resent your children? Maybe your husband is cheating on you. Get yourself a tarot reading with Ken Boggle. He can provide you with the clarity, guidance, and answers you need. That's tarotbyken.com. He makes things seem less shitty. And we're back with more Paranormal Filler. Okay, so now, did you fall in love with him or the place?
Both, actually. I'm just lucky that I got a building along with the man.
Now, this actually strikes me as funny because people ask me, are ghosts going to follow me home? And actually, I tell people, well, I can't say it doesn't happen, but most paranormal investigators, if it was that easy, they'd be investigating in their sweatpants, and just, bringing the ghost home and not worrying about stomping around buildings like yours half the night.
Right.
So, now I think I know the answer to this question. Asylum 49. I take it that name came up because that was a really cool name for a haunted house.
Exactly. So asylum is actually a scary word for a lot of people. It invokes fear. And 49, that just happened to be the year they started construction, so we thought that it was fitting. Now,
from the chat room, I think we've covered it, but I think they just want to make sure they understand. When he bought it, the rest home, they knew that he was bringing in a haunted house.
They did. I don't think that they knew that it would be as big as it is. We've made quite a name for ourselves in both the paranormal world as well as the haunt lovers world. So they're actually happy with it. We donate a lot of money to their facility every year so that they can have a lot more than they wouldn't if we weren't around.
Oh, yeah.
So they're actually really, and we're separated by a huge hall, so they aren't disturbed by it.
That actually surprises me because most, not all, but most of the haunted attractions that I've gone to get pretty damn noisy.
We do.
So I'm just wondering if a few of the residents don't really beg their children to put them up for 2 months. Now, okay, so he realized something was going on. You called in investigative teams. Now, when did Richard get involved?
Richard got involved the spring of 2015. He contacted us, and he was working on a book called The World's Most Haunted Hospitals, and he had come across our hospital. And he asked if it would be all right if he came in and did some investigating and interviewed us. And we were more than happy to have him. We just told him, well, you come in, you do your investigation, and you can tell us how it turns out. And from there, he wrote his hospital, or the World's Most Haunted Hospital. And after spending some time with us, he realized there was more to this story than he could put in one chapter. And I said, Richard, I would love to co-author a book with you. I've got experience as a writer, and if you would be willing to do that, we can tell this story.
So, what was the, because I have not got to read the book, is it a documentation of the stuff that goes on there? What is the book about?
The book is about, part of it is the 10 years leading up to Richard coming to the hospital. There's a lot of that story, a lot of things that I myself as an investigator have learned that I would otherwise not have any clue about if I didn't live and breathe in a haunted location and sleep and all those other things that you do in life. It's basically my second home, and sometimes my first home during the haunted house season. But it's a collaboration of what we've learned, some stories and experiences that others have had, naming our tour guides, their experiences that they've had over the years, and also with Richard and his team's investigation of the hospital when he came back for a second time, Halloween of 2015.
Now it sounds, of course, a lot of the cataloging was in the bullshit article that I threw away. Have you found the place to be haunted by a regular cast of characters? Let me ask that first.
Actually, yes, we do have regular spirits that are there all the time. We have also some that come with people that do ghost tours. I believe we have some that come with the guests during the haunted house attraction, and we also are right next to the town cemetery. So I think we get some passerbys through them as well.
Okay. This is when I go inside baseball, because I don't like to call myself a paranormal researcher anymore because I'm not out in the field, but that is how I got into this. Mm-hmm. And along the way, I've created some kind of, they're not even strong enough to be called theories, but I do see some commonality in certain places. First of all, I've never been in a hospital over probably 2 years old that doesn't have ghost stories already attached to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you spoken? I mean, well, I guess even the people next door, but have people come forward that were there when the hospital was the hospital, when it had a birthing unit, when it had a cancer ward, to tell you, yes, we experienced this. This went on. Have those type of stories come forward?
They absolutely have, and it didn't happen until we started investigating the location and finding and having our own experiences with these spirits. There have been times when the actual nurses that worked at the hospital have given us a tour instead of us giving them a tour, and what they would tell us about some of the experiences that they would have. Also, I had a friend that spent some time at the university hospital out here, and her physical therapist described seeing this woman in a location. He was very specific about the location where she was standing, very specific about her physical appearance, and by his description, we were able to find no less than 5 people who have seen that same woman standing in the exact same place, wearing the exact same thing, doing the exact same thing that he had described during ghost tours. So it's not been something that hasn't occurred even when it was an up-and-running hospital.
Mm-hmm. I know our modern hospital here in my little town, they keep moving the emergency room, and I think it's because they keep getting haunted. No, they haven't admitted that, but there are a lot of ghost stories tied to the old emergency rooms.
Yeah.
Now, it's just out of curiosity, is the emergency room in your side of the building?
We do have the emergency room in our side of the building, and it's very odd about the way that the hospital and the activity occurs is we have almost a clear line down the center of where more positive hauntings occur and where more negative hauntings occur. And just like you said, I think you're onto something there. The more negative hauntings are on the ER side.
Well, that would, theoretically, so that would contain more of your people, for lack of a better term, that really were pissed off about shedding these mortal coils, as they say. My theory on hospitals, and this kind of, I want to lead this into where you were talking about it seems to also attract, whether they follow them in or come from the cemetery or whatever. My belief system is that every time a life comes into this world or goes out of this world, a little pinprick happens in what we call the veil. And in a hospital, you've got a whole bunch of these because you've got lives coming in, you've got lives going out, and these things kind of gather together into this conglomeration of what some people would like to call a vortex.
Right.
So in other words, you've got an anchor point for the activity, and then I think that it attracts other activity. I would attribute it. Personally, I don't like attributing, followed in so-and-so to the haunted house. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I just tend to think that places like that become crossroads for wandering spirits, for lack of a better word.
Right, and that's some of a theory that a lot of people have. It sometimes takes a little bit more depth to get to that when you're discussing spirits and hauntings and things like that, because that's not always a level 1 ghost hunter piece of information. But I think that you're onto something with that. I think that we do have something of a vortex in the hospital. And we've been told many times, and there's been times when our equipment's gone crazy in this area, that we do have. But it's really interesting because I think that a lot of times when you open yourself up to discussing or even listening to somebody who's on the other side, it opens a door for a lot of things. And there's been times when people have come who just wanted to prove to themselves or have recently lost a loved one that there is something after we die. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times it's a journey, but there are times, and I've witnessed several times myself, when somebody's actually been able to talk with one of their loved ones at the hospital. And whether it's because it's, like you said, some sort of a vortex or a portal, or if you're just listening at that moment, that it opens you up to having that experience.
And along those lines, I will also add that when you have people stomping around in the dark asking to talk to ghost oblige. That's right. I'm sorry, I've been in enough places. I just believe that, and I don't mean to, some people would argue that's the Tulpa effect. We create the haunt, but I think we attract the haunt.
I think we would too. I think you're onto something with that. If you're a spirit and you're wandering around on this earth, or you just want to talk to somebody, and nobody's seeing you, nobody's acknowledging your existence, you're basically invisible, and then you find a location where people are talking to those in their realm. Mm-hmm. Most would probably be more than happy to stick around and see if they can have some kind of conversation.
Exactly. We're going to go ahead and take another commercial break. Everybody, you're listening to Paranormal Filler.
Gone Off Topic, where each week your host, Wes Forsythe, explores the unusual, the weird.
That's the same thing.
The strange.
Still the same thing.
The bizarre.
What the hell, dude?
And the controversial.
Okay, yeah, there's that.
Nothing is off limits.
Well, maybe.
Nothing is out of bounds when you've gone off topic.
Gone Off Topic. Sunday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. ParanormalFiller.com. Ghost Stop is investigators building for investigators. It's not just a store. They are researchers that build and supply gear for teams around the world and your favorite ghost hunting shows such as Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures. Ask anyone that has used Ghost Stop and they'll tell you the customer service and quality are unbeatable because they know the equipment they are selling. Ghost Stop. Go to ParanormalFiller.com. Click any Ghost Stop link. Ghost Stop. They build it. They use it. And this week's featured product at the Ghost Stop, the FLIR 1 thermal camera. Now, they came out with these for the iPhones. I was not even aware that they were doing them now for Androids. Yes, you can get a FLIR camera that plugs in to your Android phone or tablet. They're very economical, and actually, I hate to admit it, they've eliminated one of my objections to the FLIR camera. Even though I'm sure the range on these small units are still not that great, they've added a second camera that does a layering effect and lets you see, gives you some context to the images you're seeing. So when you're seeing a hotspot around a window, the underlying image, it actually takes a picture of the window. So you can get a little better context of what you're using. So this is even a massive improvement over the early heavy-duty FLIR cameras in that respect. Go to paranormalfiller.com. I've got it highlighted on the front page. Just click the link. It'll take you over to Go Stop. And check that out. It is a very economical way to add a FLIR camera, a forward-looking infrared camera, to your ghost hunting toolbox. Okay, Cami, I love talking ghost theory with people. Now, let's go. Okay, I want to see if you've been around the place enough to pick up on this. Do you feel? Because I know you mentioned the one entity that several people had seen, and she's always doing the same thing and wearing the same clothes.
Right.
Do you think that is an active, intelligent haunt, or do you think that is just what some people like to call a residual haunt, a playback of a moment in time that does not know you're there, that doesn't care about you? It's just there. Your opinion.
I think that she is an actual being. She is very aware that you're there. She doesn't look elsewhere. She will look right at you. She doesn't communicate, though. She's very much like one of the old-time head nurses. Mm-hmm. And even the nurses today, the head nurses now, are very severe, very serious about their job, and very strict. And she looks very much like that. She has the old white nurse's hat and dress and shoes and stockings, and her hair is pulled back in a bun. And she does just look at you, and disapprovingly most of the time.
The reason I ask that is an ongoing... I am a voice in the wilderness on this. I keep hearing about these residual haunts, and then, but if enough people see them, eventually it happens exactly like you just said. They look right at me. They they disappear when they see me or whatever. There is an interaction, and so I don't believe in residual haunts. Everybody, take your stone tape theory and throw it away. It's garbage. These are intelligent beings. Now, once we get into defining what the intelligent beings are, okay, that is a broad level of argument. Let's catalog some of your regulars. Now, we can't go into everybody that's fallen in some doofus going to your haunted house, but what are some of the reoccurring entities that people either record, experience, what have you?
We have some of the most vocal spirits that we have are children, and we have a few of those. There are two that like to stay in the conference room, or as you would read in the book, it's called the chapel in the book, and that is Jessica and Christian. Jessica is about 8 or 9 years old, and Christian, he appears to be about 2 or 3. And then we have 2 other children in the nursery area, one by Sarah and one that goes by the name of Tabitha. And we have another one that's in the maternity hall in patient room number 1 named Thomas. And they frequently will talk to people and communicate with people. You hear them all the time on EVPs. In fact, Ghost Adventures did catch one who I think was Jessica, sounded exactly like Jessica, in the conference room on their reel-to-reel recorder. Anybody that had seen that episode is aware of that. And then Zach, he also experienced the kids in the nursery area. So that was a really interesting thing for me to see, that even though we know that this is entertainment, even though that it is for TV, real things do happen to these people, and I know that they do because I've seen those exact things happen.
Now, I do want to pause you here before we go on. Okay, you've cataloged a bunch of names. Where did you get the names?
They tell us. That's one of the things that caused Richard to come back and do a whole other book on the subject, and me to co-author with him, is because we have a lot of evidence, very solid evidence of EVP, of spirit box communication, of being told numerous times by people who said, I think this person's name is such and such. Over the years, we've had that evidence. We've gotten that evidence and been told by these spirits who they are and what they're doing.
See, now I like that. That's my favorite haunt in the whole world. That's the way it's worked. We got data that had names in it, and some of them. Now we were lucky because some of ours were associated with people that actually owned the building. We were able to actually follow these names back and say, "Oh my God, that's who this person is." But now I doubt if you've been any of the names that's come across, even that we haven't covered yet. Have any of the names shown up in your historic research?
Yes, we have a few that have. A lot of the people that we have at the hospital are spirits. They're very hard to find because it's all through medical. And as you probably know in your research, and any other investigator out there knows, that it's really hard to track down any kind of medical files because of the laws. They prevent you from being able to get into people's and patient history. So a lot of them we can't find. But we have been given first and last names. One in particular, his name, and this is one that Ghost Adventures and a lot of people that do research on the hospital will take this EVP as an example because it's so rare to get a first and last name in the EVP. And we got one. He was in the x-ray room, and you can hear on the EVP, "What is your name?" And you hear him, and he says, "Peter Hansford." And doing some research on him, we found that he actually did not pass away out in Tooele. He passed away in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he's also buried there. However, he was a radiology tech at the hospital for many years and loved his job. And he's also come back with his parents, and he comes back because he has good memories from that place. He enjoyed his job. He loved doing what he did. And he has fond memories of that place, and that's why he goes back.
Neat. Okay, let's go down the other hallway there.
Okay.
The one that you said, because apparently I'm taking the kids aren't pushing people downstairs and
No.
pulling their hair. What goes on with you referred earlier to some darker energies. What goes on in that part of the hospital first?
We have a lot of things. A lot of the more negative things that paranormal investigators come across, like the growlings and the just real grumpy attitudes towards people. And you add in addition to that, scratches and being pushed, being yelled at, just feelings of dread. I know a lot of investigators can tell when they're around something that's angry or mad or not nice. They feel that in their chest, and that fight or flight response jumps up and starts reacting. Those kind of things are more of the things that go on in the ER area.
I wish I could do that. I am oblivious. And I'm not saying I don't experience spirits. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to get their story in my head and all that beautiful stuff. But it seems like the nastier they are, the less I know they're around. So that,
well, maybe you're just lucky.
Maybe that's what it is. So if I ever make it there, I probably won't even bother with that word. It'll be a waste of my time. Now, as far as the entity catalog, let's get back to that. Are there any regulars on that side of the hospital?
There are, and in fact, this is one of the spirits that we are still trying to find. There is a gentleman, he's very large, tall, wide, and he's told us that he wants to go by the name The Guardian. Why he wants to go by that name, we've asked him, and he told us he's guarding secrets. So that is something that we're definitely going into. He's a very, very mean individual. He seems a lot like a bully. He likes to face down some people that seem to be the more alpha generally males of the group.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Richard, when he came, he had a little standoff with him also, where he had somebody telling him, a medium telling him what was being said, and he was just playing along because he's skeptical of all things. He doesn't see it, he doesn't know for sure if it's happening, and so he was just playing along and having this argument with the guardian, who was very much a bully. And the medium said to him, "Well, you did it. He's running off with his tail between his legs." And he's good, okay. And the only thing that solidified that for him was that as she said that, he could hear, and everybody in the room could hear footsteps running off in another direction, which were documented on recorder as well.
Okay, now you've got me wanting to come. So that's
You're welcome to come anytime.
I like doing my alpha male act. So
you want to act the alpha male?
Yeah,
that's how you want to come.
That's pretty much it for me. Now I do realize now what they were when I'm going to go way back to an earlier question. And it's because the person that asked it's from Canada, and they have all these rules about hospitals. And so the reason they were wanting to clarify about whether the rest home knew what you were doing when you moved in is they cannot wrap their head around anything that wasn't sterile in the same building as anything medical. But
we're separated by quite a long hallway. In fact, we call it the Green Mile. So everything that we do does not affect what they do. It is a complete lockdown facility because there is an Alzheimer's unit there, so there is no way that you can get in or out of the building, either our side or their side, without being buzzed in.
Now,
rest easy, Canada. It's all good.
Now, okay, but does the activity cross the Green Mile?
I have absolutely no idea about that personally, but I have been told stories by the nurses on the other side of things that go on, things that happen, that they don't necessarily affect the residents there, but as the nurses go on about their duties and work there with these people, they do see things that happen. And hopefully we get the building in February, at the end of February, and we can go in there and start to research and document what's going on the other side. Or maybe we'll find out that it's all going across.
Now, the reason that even came up is going back to my bullshit research that I did. They were saying that the reports from the rest home area was that they would see the little children, and if they saw 3 of them, then that meant someone was going to be joining the deceased. But I take it that is nothing like anything you've heard.
That is actually true.
Oh, it is true.
It is true, and several nurses have expressed that to us and have experienced that as well. They have the children's wing over on their side, and I don't know if it was just coincidental that somebody had passed when these nurses had and the residents as well heard these children, or if it really had something to do with their passing. But there's been many times where some of the residents would call down and say, "I don't know who's got children after visiting hours, but can you please have them be quiet?" And just things like that go on. And so, yeah, a lot of things that you hear are true, and that is one of them. Okay,
but when they get that call, do they go and do a bed check then?
Yes, they do. And these nurses, they know what they're doing over there. They know who's in their building. They know who's coming. They know who's going. It's a very tight and very efficient nursing home. So they know.
Well, I was taking that to a darker level where they have to actually go in and poke people.
No, they definitely go in and check on their residents to make sure everything's okay.
Okay, I meant a wellness check. Yeah, that's a much more delicate way to put it. But I'm just, it's kind of like that story that was on that was making the rounds of social media and television a few years back. The cat in the rest home, and if the cat laid on your lap, the person's going to die. And if that cat showed up in my room, I'd be, get that damn cat out of here.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, that was... Yeah, everybody in the rest home loved the cat, but whoever the cat cuddled up to was the next to go. And I'm like, no. Get me a dog. So,
a dog. You're a dog person.
Well, if it's the cat of death, hell yes.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you on that one, Wes.
Okay, we've got one more commercial break, everybody. Then we'll be back with the final segment of Paranormal Filler. TarotByKen.com. Unlike other tarot readers, Ken reads multiple spreads during each session to provide you with clear, concise answers and guidance. Don't take my word for it, I'm just a voice on the radio. From Kelly, one reading with Ken completely changed things around for me. Jennifer, I feel so rejuvenated about my life. Melissa, it has changed my life. Visit TarotByKen.com to arrange your own tarot date, or you can call or text Ken at 859-229-4833. And we're back with Paranormal Filler. My guest is Cami Andersen, and we're talking about the book, The Hauntings of Asylum 49, Chilling Tales of Aggressive Spirits, Phantom Doctors, and The Secret of Room 666. I want to end up with The Secret of Room 666. What's the big secret? Unless that's just total spoiler and nobody will buy the book.
I'm not going to tell you the secret, but I will talk about some of the stories from down in Room 666. That is one of the rooms where we have found somebody in history who occupies it. And that person, his name is Wesley. He was actually living in that room, and he died in that room of complications with Alzheimer's. And he is still with us, and he's still suffering from symptoms of Alzheimer's.
Yes, okay. Common thread. I've encountered a spirit that was haunting a house that passed away of Alzheimer's, and yes, that was in the confusion. It's and that's in. Now he's one. If you wanted to help him out, I can tell you how to help get him out of there.
We've tried many times, and he just seems to come back. So we stopped trying to kick him out.
Well, you don't kick him out.
The other side will help him, and when it's his time,
well, okay. But one of the if you forget about your regular psychics, find a Reiki master.
I am one.
Are you? Okay. Now,
do
you treat Alzheimer's patients?
I have not yet. No.
Okay. Learn how to do that, and then go in there and treat him.
That's an interesting concept.
Hey, it's
try that.
And it was completely free.
Yeah, go you.
Okay, let's get a few let's get some plugs in. Let's get some details on investigating the place. Let's go back to our ghost hunters. First of all, any particular days of the week? Is this open 24/7? How do you all do the tours and the ghost hunts?
You actually have to schedule that with me. And you would go to asylum49.com, and that shows you all the different things and packages that we have for tours, gives you pricing and things like that. And then you would email, and I would answer that, and we'll schedule a date for you to come out.
Now, are there different, just to give people an idea of what they're looking for, I understand you do like a tour package and then an overnight package.
Right, so the regular tour package will give you, and the overnights as well, will give you a tour of the location and show you some of the evidence that we've got, and kind of give you little tips on how to best communicate with the spirits in each area. And you can do that from either 8 to 1 or from 8 to 8.
But the overnights, you take them in, show them the pictures, and lock the doors.
Right.
Gotcha. What are now? Another thing, inside baseball stuff. As far as when groups are in there, we'll talk mostly about the overnights. Do small groups have better luck, larger, or does the place hold up pretty well to larger groups? They're
very different types of energies. When you have so many bodies in a building that's looking for the same thing. A lot of people, they all have different agendas and different emotions on how and why they're investigating. So the more people you have, it seems that you get a lot more personal experiences. And it just depends on your group as well. If you have a large group that you can kind of control and you know where they're at and you're not cross-contaminating any evidence, then you're very lucky. You've got the best of both worlds. But a lot of times with the larger groups, it's hard to control where people are, what they're doing, their voices on your recorders, all of those fun things. But if you have a smaller group, it seems like you get a lot more solid evidence, solid EVPs, photo, video, and experiences as well. So it just kind of depends on what you're doing. It's always active, and obviously the activity varies, and you can get pretty much every type of evidence all throughout the hospital.
Okay, so everybody, once again, that is Asylum49.com, Asylum49.com, and incidentally, yes, the front page of the website is really, really obnoxious, so go right to because it's for the haunted house. That's where the money is. But get into the ghost hunt part of it, and there were some interesting pictures. I didn't have time to look at the video evidence, but now I will say orbs. I'm sorry, you've got a couple of orb photos up, and I guarantee you've got a lot more in your pocket than you put on that website. Because everybody,
my opinion on orbs varies. I've seen them with my own eyes, but in video and camera, I throw those out 90% of the time.
But there were some interesting shadow pictures. I have to say they were there was some interesting evidence posted, and that you've got EVPs posted, and of course the book. Everybody, easy enough to find. If you type in Asylum49 Amazon.com, it will take you right to the page, and you can order your copy of The Haunting of Asylum 49 by Richard Estep and Cami Andersen. Chilling tales of aggressive spirits, phantom doctors, and the secret of Room 666. Cami, thank you so much for coming on Paranormal Filler.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
And everybody, stick around if you're listening live. Gone Off Topic comes up at the top of the hour, 10 p.m. This has been Paranormal Filler.